Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to this first NetPlace event in this new semester. And in this semester, we introduce a new format of the NetPlace seminar. We call it roundtable. So in this session, we'll have a more focused discussion on a certain topic. For example, today will be like how AI will change academia, how we work in academia. And so today we have Danilo from Queen Mary University of London, and he's a final year PhD student now, and he's going to share some of his views on the AI and academia, entitled Using Typewriters in the Era of Laptops, a glimpse into the future of academia. Thank you very much, Danny.
Thanks, Aline, for the kind introduction. Thanks to the organizers for having me. Also, if you cannot hear me, let me know, because I have no idea where the microphone is. So just in case, I can try to speak louder if you cannot hear me. So without further ado, let's get back to into the topic. The idea of the talk is basically, so the idea of the title is that, in my opinion, so I'm assuming most of the people in this talk, in the audience, are doing research. And what I think is that basically we are using typewriters. Like, we have laptops and we have amazing technology, but we are not using that. And it's a pity. So I want to show in this talk what I mean, at least in the first 20 minutes, and then we can discuss about whatever we want. So the main topics I'm going to discuss are going to be what tools are available today, what we can get soon, I would estimate in less than 10 years, and what we can get in the long run. And then eventually I'm going to talk about some of the issues and what could go wrong. Before going on, this is just my opinion. So, I'm in the AI community. I've been there for a while. A few of the things I'm going to say, I already told these in March, and some of my prediction actually became true. So I'm gonna stick to that and see what happens. So first of all, I'm gonna start asking you guys to put in the chat, or if you want to mute yourself, what is the meaning of doing research for you? So what are the steps? What is actually required for doing research? Like, if you can type in the chat or unmute yourself and let me know. Can I write something? I cannot. I'm not going on unless someone is writing something. Choosing an interesting problem, definitely. That's very important. Otherwise, the grant is not coming. I want at least other two answers. Like, steps of doing research. When you think about doing research, what do you think?
Trying to solve that interesting problem, say, ONCA.
Very good.
And for sure, you need to do the literature review to understand what had been done previously.
Useful, and I mean, in some part it's interesting. So, but yeah, those are definitely some steps that we need to do. Reading bibliography. Oh, that's a lot of things. Very nice. Reading bibliography, keeping up with the new findings, find interesting questions, trying to solve them, disseminate your findings. Disseminate your findings is really on point. Which write the paper, definitely, yes. I'm not gonna talk about disseminate your findings, but actually that's like probably one of the most important thing we need to do as researchers, because otherwise people will not know what they're doing. So for me, if I think about doing research, for me the steps are study other works, so like literature review, come up with a new idea, of course, some of you said that, prove that the idea is correct, either theoretically or with some experiments, check that no one did the same, this is still literature review, do the numerical results, and then wrap up everything, write a paper, and share the knowledge with everyone. And then repeat the cycle, because you don't do that only once. So what skills are required for each of these steps? You have to learn, you need to know how to search things. For coming up with idea, you need creativity, you need some sort of intuition. To prove that something is correct, you need technical, theoretical skills. To validate the theory, you need some coding skills usually. And then you need to know how to write, and not just write, but like academic writing. Now, the thing is, what tools do we have? For studying other work and checking that no one did the same, there is this website, Connected Papers, where you can put, I don't know if you can see my mouse, I think so. You can put the title of something, and basically you can see all the papers that are close or that are connected to the paper. In this case, it's one of my paper, just to do some advertisement. And here are all the papers that could be close to that. And it's not just a matter of who cited who, but it's a matter of content. So that's actually quite interesting. And it can help you if you want to do some literature review. Then if you want to prove it is correct, among other tools, of course, there is Lean. Lean comes from Professor Kevin Buzzard, and it's actually an amazing tool, and it's white box, so it's not like AI thing. And it's like coding program. It's like, yeah, you have to code something and it proves if everything is coherent. Then if you want to validate the theory, of course, there are these tools like ChatGPT, which can help to code something and to get some of the code. And then if you want to write something, again, there is ChatGPT, which helps a lot getting at least a draft. Or for example, if you want to write some math and you don't want to go into all the text for LaTeX, basically you can just take a picture of your handwritten notes and you get the equation. And then you can just copy the formula from here, which can help to reduce the time. And then if you are not a native speaker, there is Grammarly, which can check how you are writing. There is Google Translate. There is DeepL. So a lot of different things. And this, for example, is the title and the abstract of my talk. And of course, the abstract was powered by ChatGPT, because I had myself with ChatGPT to write at least the first draft, which then I changed it, but still the first draft was made by that. So now I want to talk about the main issues of these parts, because I just show the tools, but then what are the problems? When you want to study other works, sometimes papers are not easy to be read. Imagine if it is something which is not exactly your area of expertise, and it might be difficult to understand. Maybe there are some patterns which are not used to see, so coming up with a new idea might be hard. Proving it is correct may be hard because maybe you are lacking the theoretical skills, or learning how to use Lean takes time. Doing numerical results, maybe you're not interested into coding and you don't want to learn how to do that. That's fine. That's, for example, what pure mathematicians do. And also, for me, there are clear patterns when you want to write something, because as you know, there is always an introduction, there is always a literature review, there is always some theoretical part, numerical experiments. It's always the same structure. So why don't we take advantage of the patterns and basically get everything automized? So that would be fantastic. And every time I think about all of these, I think I'm limited by the technology of my time, because we already have the technology. It's just, it's not completely there. Like, we are missing some links. And so here it comes the second part of my talk, which is what I expect to have in less than 10 years. Coming up with an idea, I'm still thinking this is going to be coming from a human. So at least we as researchers are not going to be replaced for at least 10 years. So you can be fine. You can still become a lecturer or a reader, and then it's going to be a problem for the next generation. So let's assume that coming up with a new idea comes from us. But then if you have an idea, you can prove it is correct, for example, by integrating with a plugin or something similar, ChatGPT with Lean. And when I say ChatGPT, it's any generative text software. And actually, this looks like it's pretty. It's gonna be something that happens because ChatGPT is from Microsoft and Lean is from Microsoft. So they are both from Microsoft, and I don't see why at some point you're not gonna have some code in Lean that gets in here, and then you have some sort of feedback loop so that the result you get is correct. In terms of numerical results, you can have ChatGPT produce some code in Python, R, MATLAB, Wolfram Alpha. And this is something that's the thing I said it's going to happen.
It's already happened.
These already happened. So we already have ChatGPT and Wolfram Alpha talking together because Wolfram Alpha is a white box model. We know everything. And this is an example of what you can do if you have GPT-4. You can do the plugin of Wolfram Alpha, and then if you write basically this command here, where you ask to always put an image from Wolfram Alpha or Wolfram language, then all your results are going to be better. For example, here I've asked what is a complex network, and the result is actually nice. And we also get a graph. But the good thing is that, for example, if you, let me stop here, I don't want to get the spoiler. If you try to use that in the past and you want to do a literature review, most of the times ChatGPT was inventing the papers, like there were authors that were not there, the title was wrong. But now if you do that, and for example, I ask the titles of 3 books, the 3 books are Network Science by Barabasi, Complex Networks by Latora, Nicosia, and Russo, and Complex Networks, another one from Manoj Singh and Adhika. And again, we get an image, but that's, in this case, it's not really important. And then, yeah, I've asked something else, but we can just skip. And again, also in this case, it's fine. And the 3 books are actually existing, like it's these 3 books. So yeah, we are there. And when you want to study other works, I see, for example, connected papers and ChatGPT. So what works are connected to this one? Can you get a summary of everything? This is something I see it's gonna happen. So we started with just one idea and we got the whole paper. And in particular, what I see in the end is this. Imagine you write something like a proof. So in this case, the Pythagorean theorem. And I just take a picture of this. Then from the picture, I expect to have something like a sort of theorem. And then from the theorem, so from the only thing you're doing basically is this part, just writing something and taking a picture. Then from this part on, it's going to be automatic. Basically, I expect from the picture to get a theorem, then it would automatically translate into code, Python, Lean, whatever. It will automatically produce some tables, some images, and once they're there, it will automatically produce a LaTeX code so that everything is already in a paper. The top row is basically on paper, the bottom row is programming. So this is what I expect to see. Also, camera is showing.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But yeah, anyway. Yeah,
This is the artificial intelligence in
the camera.
What you said.
So yeah, this is what I expect to happen in less than 10 years. And there is something we can talk about in the interest of time. Maybe we can talk about that later. If you know the picture, maybe you can understand what I want to talk about, but let's talk about that later in the round table. So what I expect to happen in 40 years instead. So there are two problems. The creativity, because I said people are gonna still come up with ideas. Maybe I can do, it's showing, no, it's not that. Let's stick with this. So what is creativity? And the producibility, readability, coherence in the literature. This, I think, it's a very important problem, which at some point is gonna blow up the whole scientific literature. So in terms of creativity, some people think that we as humans are special and we can only, so only we are able to come up with some creative idea. But for me, personally, I think this is not the case. And in my case, I see maths as like a sort of map. In this case, it's a Petri net. I don't know if you are familiar with this, but basically, you have nodes and you can go into other nodes if there is some transition. So somehow, let's say, knowing this theorem enables us to know these other two theorems. And then if we know these two theorems, we can get a new one. And for me, maths is exactly like that. So, for example, we can have something like this, and we can understand that, for example, if we start from the axioms, which in this case could be just the smallest subset, such that we can start and go on from anywhere else. So we can just explore and know other stuff. And in this case, we can also ask ourselves, what does it mean for a proof to be elegant? What is the best proof? Maybe the best proof is the one that requires less links. So in this case, it's going to be the best proof. Another thing that we can do in the future might be the reduction ad absurdum. So basically, now we are just limited into saying, let's assume this is true, let's see what happens. But we can do that only for a few steps. Imagine in the future when we won't have any limitations of memory or time, thanks to the computers. And basically from here, you can just assume that, let's say, like this transition is true, so we can go from here to here, and then I can develop all the theory. At some point, we're gonna find out that something is wrong. So basically we can cut everything from here and we can just say, okay, this was wrong, never mind. But we as humans cannot do that. So that's gonna be quite strong. And we can do that also, let me see, I'm gonna talk about that later. And also this comes, it's gonna be similar to what, for example, is the adjacent possible thing. So if you know all the theorems, somehow you are one step away from other theorems. So in this sense, this is something known in the complex networks community. I don't expect this to be different in maths, but if you have different opinions, we can talk later about that. What is going to happen in 40 years? So new theorems will be generated by AI, also proofs. So maybe we're gonna get different kind of proofs. There's gonna be automatic check of the literature. So basically we can check automatically that all the published results are correct and they are coherent with the others. And for example, if at some point we find that some paper is wrong and other people develop something from that paper, we can just cut everything from there and say, okay, all those results might be wrong. We need to do them again. We can do some blind notation, which I think I'm gonna skip in the interest of time. And we can link between different fields. So now something very good that we can do with AI is we start from something and we say, please explain in different terms, which is very nice because if you ever read a paper from a different topic, I think, for example, I read some biology papers and they were completely obscure to me, but imagine having a biology paper described in terms of maths. That would be fantastic. I would understand whatever is written inside. Or if you have a pure paper and you are an applied mathematician. That would be also awesome. In terms of issues, I'm going to go very fast here. What could go wrong? Well, there are possible world wars. They may attack servers. Imagine if we rely a lot on this kind of technology, that could be a problem. If humanity decides to stop going in this direction, this was exactly the case in March 2023, when some people asked to stop doing research and for this because it was getting it was just too much. We could have solar storms or solar flares, which might destroy everything electronic. And of course, one of the problems is monopoly. Now we have a few companies, like ChatGPT is not the only generative text software we have, but the problem is that if there are just a few of them, it's going to be a problem. And then, of course, there is the problem of copyrights, which we can discuss in the roundtable. So these are the acknowledgements of where I took some of the images. And now I hope it's clear why I think nowadays we're using typewriters when actually we have laptops. So that's actually the end of the talk. And this is the slide for the roundtable. So I'm happy for you to discuss with me about these topics.
Thank you very much, and it's a very interesting talk. And so first, I would like to comment a little bit. I think this might be particularly helpful in many interdisciplinary area, for example, like network science, because it is known that a few things in the network science, for example, the power law, degree distribution, or the scale-free graph, etc., have been rediscovered for many times. And initially, they were proposed in a very different area, and at that time, people may not notice the importance of this concept, or for any other reasons, it may be ignored, and afterwards it may be reinvented or rediscovered for many times. So if such technology exists, then we may have like less ignored theorems or less ignored stuff. I mean, previously there was always a joke about the theorems definitely exist in some like Russian mathematician, the paper written by a Russian mathematician. And so if there's such a system being established, and I think this type of thing will be minimized, especially in the interdisciplinary area. And like I agree, people in different areas may write paper or use notation in very, very differently, and it's a barrier for people in the interdisciplinary area to understand both area. So that's what I want to say. Thank you. And then now I see there are some questions and chat, some comments in the chat.
Yeah. We can go and discuss the one in the chat. I just want to add one thing to what you said, which I completely agree. For example, in the topic in which I am working now, which is basically numerical analysis and functional analysis applied to neural networks, these are actually areas which are very strongly related. Like you can take results from numerical analysis and put them into neural networks, but for like a few decades, this didn't happen just because they were talking a different language. So imagine if it was like all these barriers would be away thanks to whatever tool there is. In this case, it's some AI tool. That's fantastic. We can just create a lot of bridges between different topics. So yeah.
Yes, and I see in the chat, Violetta, I mentioned the Copilot. And
yes, which I have here. It's not in the slide, but yes.
Perplexity. Maybe could you introduce that tool or whatever a little bit, and maybe people are also interested in these tools or have questions on this maybe.
Yeah, so what's the Copilot?
So Copilot is, so for what I know at least, and I'm happy to get more suggestions from the audience. Copilot is basically a plugin that you can get from Visual Studio Code, which I think is working both on Windows and Apple software, so that would be fine.
Yes.
and it helps a lot into writing code. You can, for example, highlight some part of your code, and you can ask, what does this part of code do? You can ask to do some changes, like some edits. For example, I want this part of code to do this. And if you have errors, which is something it puzzled me for a lot of years, and finally we have it. Like, sometimes you have an error like pandas is not installed. Okay, please give me the command to install pandas if you know that this is the problem. And now, for example, with GitHub Copilot, you have that. So basically you get the error and you also get immediately the solution. You don't have to go to Stack Overflow and Google the problem.
Or to ChatGPT.
It's already in there. So that's nice. That's free. As far as you know, maybe you have to queue, so you have to ask, and then after some time you're gonna get that. But it's worth trying it. And I have no idea about Perplexity AI. So if Annalisa wants to say something about that, I'm happy. I would be happy to hear something.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm using it just for looking for reference and papers, but since GPT is not up to date, it's just to 2021, if I'm not wrong, you cannot find like most recent papers that you can find actually on Perplexity. Maybe, I don't know if I can share the screen. I can try to show it.
If there is the multiple screen check.
Yeah.
One participant can
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you should be able to do that.
Try.
1 sec.
So am I sharing?
Okay.
No, this is my camera. I'm not sharing the screen.
Yeah, you're not sharing.
No, this is like my virtual
Oh,
camera.
yeah, you're not sharing. That's true.
Okay. No, yes, now we can see.
Oh,
Can you see mine?
nice. Yes.
Let's try with
Thanks.
so you can
Nice.
see a recent paper.
And the
And
advertisement.
it actually gives you the link to the paper, and I mean, you know that the reference are good because you have the actual link to the paper, and
Okay.
it actually has more things that I've not explored yet. So that's it. But I'm using Perplexity for reference.
Is this free?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
And see, you have the option to upgrade by paying that.
As always.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I stopped there.
Nice. Very nice.
Let me put it down. This could be very useful.
So there was also the comment from Basti.
So how much time do you save by using Copilot, for instance, in your experience? It's hard to say because I mean, if you have been coding for a while, most of the time you already know how to debug and how to change the code so that it works. So maybe if you are experienced, it can save, I don't know, 10% of your time. I have no idea actually. Like it's very hard to get a number. I would think this is particularly useful for people starting, because then maybe they even don't know that Stack Overflow is a thing, and they might be stuck. I remember when I started coding, it took me ages to understand how to solve a problem, and having something as a Copilot would be super beneficial. Or if like a code has no comments, that also very nice because it saves a lot of time into understanding what does it do. So yeah, it depends what do you use it for.
Maybe
I have a follow-up question, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I have a specific question. So using, for instance, AI tools for coding and for writing is something that I'm very I haven't done it and I don't want to get into it, or I will about it, but because these seem to be the parts in research that allow me to understand or increase my understanding the most, right? Because if you have to write about it, you have to fully understand it, you have to read through it. And if also, I mean, if you do research in something coding intensive, then all coding it leads to a full understanding of it. If you substitute that by using AI, you kind of decouple understanding from creating in a way. So you're not needed to fully understand everything that you create, right? Because you just have to say what you kind of want to, and then get something that kind of does what you do, right? And I don't know how to. I have no final decision or made no final decision about it, but I'm just curious about what you think about this. How do you use these AI tools in areas just so important to understand what you're doing?
I am so yes. That's a fantastic point. I have an opinion on that, and therefore I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to have bias in the audience. I want to know what the audience think about that, and then I'm gonna say what I think.
Okay, I could say something. So my first impression on this general type of question is like similar to, for example, people always say like AI will destroy the whole world or will control or whatever. And now what we have is actually, it cannot even recognize, or you cannot get you the right citation. And I think this is kind of similar to the coding thing, because I don't think even like Copilot or any tool can fully provide you a solution, or in most cases cannot provide you the full solution by just asking a question, or just like, let's say, write me this thing and the AI will do the rest. I think it's still not going to happen. It's still not happening now. And for me, I have been using Copilot when it's still free. Like I can use it for free. And when like the situation when I use it is mostly to simplify or speed up my coding process. For example, I think what the good part is of Copilot is sometimes it can sort of understand your intention to what you are doing now. For example, if I write some code like if this condition is satisfied and I do something, and sometimes it can automatically like fill the, if this condition is not satisfied, then you do something else. And let's say maybe 60% of the time, the prediction of Copilot is correct. It's that exactly what I want to write. So in this case, it simplified my whole coding procedure. And I think sometimes this tool can offer you, provide you some little like blocks in the coding procedure, because always you need to write this kind of simple but necessary stuff in your code. And yeah, I think Copilots will just speed up that process for me, like the when I actually can use it. And another similar thing is, for example, you have to, maybe this is only a stupid problem to me, but sometimes you need to type very stupid things. For example, you need to give a name for these figures, or you need to give need to write some text, and it sometimes is kind of like a repetition work, and Copilot can understand your intention and it can automatically complete it for you. So I think, at least for me now, when I use it, it's not involved in the creative process. but more like assistant helping me speed things up or reduce the error. So yes, as far as I understand, it's not the concern to me now, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future when the tool becomes more powerful. Or yeah, that's my view.
Is there anyone
Also,
that one?
yeah, also
Go
I
on, go
just
on.
a quick, yeah, to follow up. I think it's a good point. Also, my concern more the pilot can't do it for now because the training set is good enough. But if we interact with it and if we actually use it to solve problems, then we just feed it with this training set of how to be creative or how to solve creative problems, right? So we train the next iteration of it by using correct. So this is how I understand. So this would be my my concern with that. But I see. I will look into it a lot.
Yeah, the copyright concern is actually important because somehow it's free because it's taking the data of whatever we are writing, and so it's a way to get better using our. So we get something in return, which is getting everything faster, but we're not getting paid. Same time, we're not paying for the product. So yeah, that's a point. And
Comment.
when he's coming back, I'm also saying my answer.
to your position.
Yes, I think he can hear us, but I'm still waiting. We can go to the next question then.
There is a comment from Gonzalo. Also, Violetta comments that she used a lot, she improved a lot the time, the working time with the co-pilot. Yeah, I agree with Violetta because I had similar experience, like converting some or using a language that I wasn't used to, and like ChatGPT helped me a lot. Right, try to convert the parts. Obviously, you need to know what you're doing. I mean, you have to be experienced in coding, but yeah.
So I'm gonna, since Basti is back, I'm gonna give my answer, which is simply, are you coding? Yes, you know how to code. Do you, second question, are you a computer scientist or someone who did like all the parts of the laptop? Okay. In my case, I've done engineering. I had some coding part, but I haven't done like computer science engineering or just computer science. And for example, in my part, I haven't studied all the little details of how a laptop works or any computer works. So for example, I have some basics of electronics, but I have no idea how exactly a RAM is working, an hard drive is working. And these are super important if you want to do some specific tasks. But if you want to have some like big picture thing, then you can still code without knowing how these things work. It's not going to be as good as if you knew, but it's something. Same thing, for example, if you think about MATLAB or other tools to solve ODE equations. So in the past, people used to, and in some university people still solve ODE equations with some piece of paper and a pen. For me,
write their own libraries.
Yeah, for me as a previous control engineer, I usually transform the ODE in Laplace transform, and then I solve it using MATLAB, for example. So maybe I also know how to solve it with a piece of paper and some pen, but then I always do that with MATLAB, and maybe I don't even know how to solve that. I just know that that's the procedure, and I can do that, and I can then explore other things, which is just not solving the ODE system, but also getting some other insights. So that's hard because in the end, time is limited, and you can learn just a bunch of things. And it's hard. Like from my perspective, it's just a tool. And my hope is that by just assuming everything is gonna be fine, you can just build on top of the tool. It's like, I'm using Windows, I have no idea how an operating system is working. That's fine. I'm just gonna use it. I don't know if it's probably not satisfying enough for you, but that's what I see.
Shall we comment? Also, Gonzalo.
Can I
Yes.
can I bring up the discussion that is going on in the chat about creativity, because it's like super interesting.
Yes,
Also
yes, there is. Yeah.
Both the question from Gonzalo, that is, what do you think of the creativity step? He mentioned the discovery of complex number, and he said that basically it's difficult that an artificial intelligence can do such a leap. And also then Gabriele had the philosophical question whether innovation is something that we create from scratch or something that we just discover. But there is always this narrative that creativity or innovation is combinatorial. So you have some ideas already there, and you just mix up things to create something new. So an innovation or something. So this is the basic narrative on innovation, on creativity. But I don't know if it's the only one. And what do you think about it?
The thing about discover or inventing thing is hard. Is much discovered or is it invented? That's hard. But actually, for the complex numbers is the question from, let me see, from Gonzalo. It's amazing because I have a slide on that. So basically,
No way.
it's exactly this one. I actually had somehow rediscovered myself complex numbers when I was in primary school, because I saw a pattern. Hello, because I saw a pattern. So for me, the pattern was first you start with n, so 0 if you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you get some basic operations like plus and minus, and they tell you you cannot do 2 minus 3. And I'm like, why cannot do that? Because you don't have the number -1. Let's create the number -1. So you can go also with all the negative integers and you get z. And then they tell you that there is the multiplication and that there is the division. So again, you come up with some operation and they tell you you cannot do 4 divided by 3. And you're like, why cannot do that? And so basically you get to q. And then you get something like the diagonal of a square of length 1. And you get that's not in q, and you get r. And then in R, we were solving some problems, and there was the square root of some negative number, and they told me you cannot solve it. And so again, I said, why this cannot be solved? I can introduce some square root of minus something, and that's going to be whatever, and that's going to be the answer. So somehow I already had in my mind the idea of getting something of complex. It was, of course, I hadn't complex in my mind as an idea, but the idea that there is a limit, okay, let's introduce something else so that we can overcome this barrier and go forward. It was already in there. So every time you have some operation, you have some limitation on that, you go further. And so in some way, I see a clear pattern in here. I don't see why I should be different from a machine. So I think also an algorithm can see the pattern and then go from N to Z, from Z to Q, and so on. And maybe come up also with something different, because I don't know, maybe you start with matrices. like when you play chess, AI came up with some very strange things, very strange strategies. When you play Go, it comes with very strange strategies. So maybe also in maths, it's going to be like that. Let me also check what other part. So I think I've answered, but I'm happy to know what you think about that. And then there is also the question of Gabriele, which Gabriele, you need to be more concise. It's too
so long. Gabriele wrote a paper on creativity for Netflix.
Dr. Gabriele.
Does anyone have a comment for the problem of complex numbers?
A follow-up question to that, if I.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So to this creativity problem, do you think that if we use AI more to figure out or to solve this combinatorial creativity, do you think research will be less disruptive in the future? Because if it depends more and more of what has already been done, then and less on what has not been done, because that, I guess that's hard. That's like a different part of creativity, is figuring something out that didn't exist before, right? So if we do more recombinatorial creativity solutions, then like, let's call it true creativity, or like disruptive creativity. Do you think that is a problem?
It's hard to answer this kind of question, to be honest, because I see your point. Like if the algorithm is learning from what has already been done, we cannot get anything new. But if we cannot get anything new, it's going to be every time the same thing. Doing again the example of chess, I think maybe the problem now of generative text software is that it's limited somehow by the kind of things that has been said, because otherwise maybe it was completely a mess, the result. I think it might be a possibility in the future of research in maths and research in general, that we can just get something completely new. So like a disruptive way to generate things. I have no idea how this can be possible, to be honest. But again, I see a pattern, because this is what happened in chess, this is what happened in Go, this is what happened in other games. Like there was some software from like a software playing StarCraft, and again they did something strange. So maybe it's going to happen also in maths in ways in which we cannot even think for now. So maybe it comes up with a new idea, like now we have the induction proof. Maybe it comes up with another proof, which we never thought about.
Yeah, I think for the creativity, actually, like even for human, we don't have a unifying methodology for creativity, right? We don't say, like, we don't teach people how to be creative or how to create new things. I mean, there will be some tips, but there's not like a whole methodology for that. For example, we could say the combinatoric of what you already know sometimes could lead to the innovation. But of course, this is not everything, right? Not all innovation are from this way, and so from this perspective, I don't think we should or we can say like AI or machine cannot have creativity, because first of all, we don't know what is creativity. Like we don't have a very well-defined pattern for creativity. How we do that? So we can't say we cannot do that. And another perspective is, for example, like the example you say in chess or in Go or in this game, they may propose new strategies. And so, for example, the new strategy might come from the combination of mixture of previous known strategies that AI have learned from the input. Or it could be, for example, if the input involves some noise or some like stochasticity in the process, and it may give the result which cannot be. So what I'm saying is just totally random. So, for example, stochasticity might also involve in the creative process. You may have some random input and change your, the routine path to. I mean, it's just. It might be kind of like when you do this stochastic gradient descent, right? You are aiming at one minimum, but you may run into some local minimum, and some noise can get you out of the local minimum to reach the global minimum. So it's maybe a similar procedure. Like when you try to create something, you may fall into the local minimum, and some noise can get you get out of it to the optimal, the global minimum. And I think for machine, potentially maybe the similar mechanisms still contribute in a way. So my point is, we can't say for sure that the machine cannot create new things, although it may create everything, like cover the whole method of creativity.
Yeah, maybe there are different types of creativity, for example.
Yes.
Can I make a further comment?
Yeah.
When you finish, Silvia, please.
No, that's it. I mean, maybe there are some kind of creativity more human-like, and others that we can automate, the ones from like combinatorics. And also, I think what I believe is that we have to face the fact that we will live together with this technology, and I think in the future we will be together. So AI helping us and us helping them, solving a common problem. So, for example, the combinatorics, the AI can produce some new ideas, but you as human maybe can like detect the ones that is more relevant, the one that work better, and you can continue that path, working on that. For example, I believe it's more like helping each other.
For me, that's in the middle here, between the 10 years and the 30 years.
Yeah. So,
and I won't be scared neither of the combinatorial aspect of creativity. What I meant, I like to see at this like a Lego set. Okay, so you have a Lego set. You start from scratch. You have some random pieces, and you start to build let's say an house. Okay, then you take another set. You build an hospital, and you repeat this procedure. Okay, then all these buildings create the concept of a city. So you have a new concept that is a city. It's not that you are reducing your possibility, you are creating more ideas, more possibility you can join. So it's not a cone that is going into a cul-de-sac, but I see more like an opposite reverse cone that is opening up. So I won't be scared neither of the combinatorial aspect of creativity.
So I think this is kind of the concept of emergence in complex system, right? Or in general in physics. So yeah, I see in the chat Gonzalo saying the creativity and the free time. I think for the, I mean, I'm only speak for myself. That's the free time. Yes, indeed, when you are focusing on a difficult problem, and you may get some inspiration when you're taking a shower or you're having a rest. But the thing is, for example, from my experience, when I kind of get an idea to solve a problem, when I'm relaxing, it's more like I connect the problem I'm facing to a very remote or very unrelated stuff, and that stuff give me the idea of how to solve the the problem I'm having now. So in this sense, I think it's still kind of combinatoric thing, but just combine two things which are not usually connected. So in this sense, if you agree, like this is still a certain type of combination, then AI could still do this, right? I mean, if he had all the inputs, all the knowledge, and if you just do the combination of different ones, it's still possible to find solutions to the problem you're facing. But of course, this is everything is not well defined here. For example, what on the machine level, what is the knowledge? How do you define the knowledge it have, or how do you define the combination of the knowledge? Of course, this is not well defined. I'm just saying the mechanism of using free time to create, from my experience, still relevant to this combinatoric idea.
Like in terms of knowledge, you can think about the map I sketched here. And for example, if you integrate ChatGPT with Lean, you can start from some axioms, and you can think that the knowledge is basically the width, or how many nodes you have. And how many nodes you have is like, the more nodes you have, the more knowledge you have. So somehow that could be a measure of the knowledge. In terms of what Gonzalo said, is I think there are some papers that talk about that. I'm not an expert actually, but there is definitely some research on exactly that point. So if anyone is interested, either you can get in touch with me and I can provide the papers, or you can ask ChatGPT to get the papers, because it's going to be more reliable than me, maybe. No, it's not. It's still not going to be. There was just another point, very, very quick, which is about the creativity part. I started thinking AI could be creative just as humans when I saw what it could do in terms of creating music, creating drawings. And sometimes people say this drawing is very close to my own, and that's, of course, a problem of copyright. But still, it could merge different styles. I don't know if you have seen some of the AI art coming up recently, and it's amazing. Like I remember there was the Nirvana thing, the album with the child in the swimming pool, and it was asked to create all the water outside, and it was so perfect. And I saw this picture, and people in the comments were saying, "Oh, the AI is just creating water." Yes, but it's so perfect. Like it wasn't impossible a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it is possible to create things for a software. I don't see why this shouldn't happen, at least in maths research. Also, in the interest of time, I don't know if how long you want to go. I mean, I can stay longer.
Yeah, I guess maybe a few minutes more is fine, but maybe not too long for everyone. And by the way, for the link, for the reference you were saying about this free time thing, either you could send it to us and we can post it on Twitter, or include it in the blog or put it on the website. Anyway, we can make it available to everyone.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Also, if you go on YouTube, just in case you are going to follow me, either YouTube and LinkedIn are very, like, there is nothing yet. I'm going to upload something in the future. But on YouTube, there is nothing now. If you go on Instagram, there are some videos, but they are in Italian. But I'm going to start posting some videos of PhD life first. Then I'm going to start talking about AI later. So if you're interested and if you want to get in touch, definitely come in Instagram and we can still remain in touch.
Yeah, I think the advertisement work anyway. I mean, there are very high ratio of Italian in the audience now.
As always in complexes.
Yeah, but the videos I posted were like tips to start the university, and probably people that are here are not very interested in starting the university.
Starting again.
Starting like as undergrads.
No, thank you.
No.
Okay, bye, Lisa. Anyone want to comment
Bye.
anything? Want to say anything?
I want to pose I don't know, a question, a point of discussion. So let's continue the I don't know, the discussion about art just as a metaphor of, let's say, things that humans do. So I agree that I've seen a lot of really nice works in the field of like computer vision and arts and AI's painting stuff. And the point is that, of course, they can create beautiful stuff. And sometimes you cannot distinguish between stuff that is made by human and stuff that is made by a machine. But I think the point of art in this case is not that. I mean, if I see a painting from a machine, I don't have the same respect as a painting from a human. I don't know if I...
Why?
Because it's made by a human. I mean...
But why? Think about it. What's missing?
The point is that I can empathize with a human, but not with a machine. So I get the painting from a machine, but it's just another painting. It's not made by someone like me, for example. And also,
what if you don't know that it comes from a machine?
No, that makes the difference. I need to know that.
Yeah.
I can understand what Francesco is saying, but in my case, it's more like a human spent time doing that. That's my only kind of I mean, I empathize more with art made by a human because a human spent his time or them time to do that, while a computer is doing this like in seconds. I don't know, seconds. That's in my case. This is my point.
I kind of agree with Francesco. In a way that, for example, when we go to a concert or to go to the gallery, we're not just looking at or listening to the music or look at the art, but we may sometimes also did some research about the painter, about the musician, about the composer, like under what circumstance he composed this music or he painted this painting. So if you know this background, know this history, and you may have a different feeling after listening to it. So I think the story behind the art is also part of the art.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, it's part of us being human, and the art was a product of us being human, and that completely changed the way I feel a painting, let's say. But this also applies to science. For example, there are lots of problems in mathematics that are very difficult and they are very fascinating because human cannot solve that. For example, P versus NP in computer science or other problems. If a machine can solve that, of course it's nice, we have a solution, but it's boring in some sense. It's just another solution at some point. I mean, we will have lots of papers around with problems that we didn't put effort in solving.
A provocative point of view is that we build the machines. So at the end, it's a product of humans, right? No, it's only like yeah. What do you think about it?
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean,
I
don't know.
Another point of view.
Yeah, my point is that, for example, if an AI, let's say, finds the cure for cancer. That's really nice. I mean, it's like we're not able to solve that. We have an AI that solved that. We are happy because we needed that. But for things like mathematics that sometimes we don't really need that, we do that for fun to solve certain problem. What is the point of the machine?
I could argue it's going to be different from a professional point of view or a personal point of view. So say, for example, you want to solve a Sudoku. I personally wrote a code when I was in my first year at university that takes in input a Sudoku and solved it. So I have a solution to all Sudokus, like it's there. But if I want to play Sudoku just for fun, then I'm going to do that for fun. And the same could be for maths. So we can have some tools that gets all the answers, and that's just for the professional reason. But then if you personally want to do something because you find doing maths fun, then you can still do that. And you can still have fun while proving theorems. And the other thing about the art, for like paintings, that's easy to think about the author. But if you think about a book, I mean, at least for me, when I read a book, I'm never really interested about the author. I'm interested about the characters in the book. And when I read a book, I get emotions. I get really into the characters that are written in there, but they're all fictionals. And for me, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think this is written by a human. I think the story is coherent. I don't even think it's a story when I'm reading. I'm just into that. And so, for example, if you read a book, what would it change if you knew it's written by a software or a person? For me, nothing.
Yeah, I think it depends, like from a personal point of view. For me, it will change everything. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's like, it's not limited in some sense. Human knowledge, as we have it now, is kind of limited. And instead, AI can produce stuff around, and they can be also good stuff. For example, the cure for cancer or the solving P versus NP, but still, I find it boring in some sense. I mean, we have a solution, but what is the point of if it's not our answer to that? And I mean, this also replies to Marco in chat. Okay, I agree. It will be really beautiful to have the answer to P versus NP. And I would like to have the answer. Still, the problem is fascinating because we can solve that. So
yeah, I think this
somehow this is my point. Of course,
Yeah, it's
just a personal point of view.
Yeah.
relate to like the motivation, like what is your motivation to enter academia, for example. And maybe some people are just fascinated by this outcome. If I can solve the problem, or if this problem can be solved by whatever way, I'm happy. And some others may be more fascinated by the process of solving this problem. Just like, for example, if the artist know or artists see the AI produced art is like everywhere or selling everywhere, or people are very well recognized, and the artist may not want to continue drawing art because, yeah, I understand this feeling. So I guess for science, it could be a different, because for both way, you can focus more on the result, but also you can focus more you can as well focus on the entertainment in the process. So that gives you different motivation going into academia, right? Someone doing math because they think math is beautiful, and someone do like medical science because they believe it can cure people. I think this is out of different personal reasons, and well, of course, it will give you different perspective on the process of doing.
Yeah, but also, like, for example, I don't know, I'm a writer. So one day I'm really sad and I write a book. Okay. Then at some point, somebody else can read that book, maybe it's sad, and he finds the same emotion in what I wrote. And it's different if the book was written by a machine. He didn't feel the same feeling as me. So there is room for humans, let's say, also in a world that I don't know if we will ever reach, in which AI can do everything, basically. I think there is room for a lot of stuff that humans still will appreciate just because other humans did that.
In terms of why people start doing research, and someone do that because they love doing research and they love doing math. I just want to say I started doing research because I know I'm too stupid to solve the problems, and I wanted to build a model more clever than me that could help me solving the problems, which is basically like the whole things that I wasn't able to create this software, but I think people in research are going in the right direction. So for me, that was fantastic. Like, I want a tool that helps me in practice to solve problems. But I understand your point, like in terms of being human. What does it mean when I want to get some creative thing from another person and then I don't get the person? There are people, for example, that go to a bar and instead of taking the coffee from a machine, they want to ask a person because they want to have that interaction. The coffee is going to taste the same, but at least I'm going to get the interaction. So for me, the coffee is going to taste better because a person made the coffee. So I understand your point. It's two different perspectives. The thing for me is that innovation cannot be stopped, even if we don't like it. So the only thing we can do is acknowledge that there is innovation, and if there are some tools, use the tools, and that's it. Then if I think in terms of market or similar, there are still going to be people doing paintings. Just as, for example, in Florence, there are people doing some works like repairing shoes. I don't know, artisans are they called in English? Like Florence is full of them. But in other part of Italy, maybe you don't find them. And it's fine. Like, if you want artisans, if you want the person, you go there and you will find plenty of them. So I don't know if this can be somehow a relief to you. I mean, I think art is going to be still done by some people. There will be less people.
I fully agree with that. I also like, I really like a lot the stuff that the AI community is doing. I use also a lot the tools you mentioned in the presentation. My only point is that I think stuff that humans do and stuff that machines do have different values, basically. This is my only point. Then also, I also appreciate stuff, and I use also lots of stuff, machine learning powered system. I love that, but I also find that a text made by a human is different from a text made by a machine, also if they are the same, apparent. I give more value to something that is produced by a human. And I think also in research would be this way.
No, that's a good point. For me, the thing is, for example, when we say we as humans prove the theorem, is that conjecture, is the Poincare conjecture the one that was proven by Perelman? I don't remember.
Yes.
I think so, yes.
So we can say we solved the Poincare conjecture, but it wasn't me. It was another person. I will never even grasp the idea of that proof. So yes, a human proved that, but it's not me. And so in my case, I would say for me, for me personally, it would be a better achievement if I was able to create a software and the software could prove the conjecture, because then it's somehow indirectly mine. Then I'm using a tool to get to the point, and it's me. It's not someone else.
I guess shall we maybe stop this session here because it's already kind of too long.
It's very yes.
It's very interesting. It's a topic that we can discuss, I think, forever.
Yeah.
I mean, first I'd like to thank you, Danilo, for this very inspiring and interesting talk, which lead to a very rich discussion. And
thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to our first seminar this semester, and hope to see you soon. And let me stop.